Hello and welcome to another episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your host Scott Orr. I want to just stop and say thank you so much to everyone who's been listening. I mentioned this earlier, but just recently, a couple weeks ago, we hit our biggest single day download, a new record, and that happens like every couple of months. So there's so many people who have been listening to this show, and that's so encouraging. The episodes are not going to stop. There's so many great interviews coming up. So thank you so much. I've been getting emails from people, like literally 2 or 3 a week, from people talking about the show and reaching out to me. And I just really, really appreciate that. And you can, if you have any questions or suggestions or just want to chat, you can send me an email at podcast@otherrecordlabels.com. This is going to be a short one. I just wanted to share with something that just popped in my head because it's actually a pet peeve, a little bit of a frustration in the industry and with labels. And I wanted to share it with you and give you one little thing that I think you can do to help more people discover your label and discover the artists and the albums on your label. Again, thank you so much to everyone. And if you haven't already, go to otherrecordlabels.com and we have some free resources up there, including our free guide for indie labels and DIY artists, which is basically our previous episodes condensed into a little bit of a free guide. So go to otherrecordlabels.com to check that out. You know, something that happens a lot. I love record labels. You know that. That's why I'm doing this show. And I discover a lot of new record labels all the time. Every week, I'm discovering a handful of new ones that follow me or get suggested to me on social media, or, you know, for whatever reason, I discover a record and then I find out what label they're on. And generally what happens is I have this urge, this craving to dive deep into their catalog and to discover more artists and to hear more music from that label. And what's kind of frustrating is there isn't like an easy, quick way to do that all the time. And what I kind of wish, and I'm really frustrated with Spotify and Apple Music, because I wish there was a way to type in a record label into Spotify and all their albums show up, or even better, like a way to listen randomly to all of their records. I often find labels that I like who have a consistent aesthetic or a consistent vibe, and likely I'm going to enjoy all of their records or a handful of, you know, the majority of their records because they all share a similar sound. And as a music fan, I'm talking as a music fan, I'm not talking about the podcast, but as a music fan, there are these times where I've discovered this cool label and I want to kind of deep dive into their catalog, and there isn't an easy way to do that. And so I want to take this just a quick second just to suggest to you and to encourage you to create a Apple Music playlist, but a Spotify playlist that seems to be a little bit more common, or even a YouTube playlist, if that's however that's possible. But creating a Spotify playlist, and I know this isn't like inventing the wheel here. I know a ton of labels do this. I have one for my label. I know lots of great labels have a constantly updated Spotify playlist with cool artwork. It's free to do. All you need to do is to have a Spotify account. You don't even have to have a paying account. It could just be a regular account. I know a lot of labels do this, and I think it's really helpful. But there was a small but very cool and popular label called Good Morning Tapes. A lot of you might know them. And I was reading about them in a magazine, actually, and I thought, man, I want to listen a little bit more to this label and I want to hear all of their releases. And so I went to Spotify and I typed in Good Morning Tapes. And again, I blame Spotify for this because it would be really great. And I know they're doing things for songwriters, but it'd be really great if they could highlight labels in such a way that you could just type in the label and a huge profile comes up with different playlists and different mixes and all of their catalog. Man, wouldn't that be great? I typed in this label, Good Morning Tapes, and one playlist showed up. It was called Good Morning Tapes Playlist, and there were 4 songs on it. This was created by some random person. There was 4 songs and 2 songs from one record and 2 songs from another record. I actually listened to it because I was really desperate to hear some of this music. But I was thinking, man, wouldn't it be great if there was a playlist of 90 songs or 40 songs all throughout the years of their catalog? I feel like this is a great entry point for people. And I know that there are presence on Bandcamp, but a lot of us are comfortable using Apple Music and Spotify on the go and at our workstation. And it's a nice way to kind of be introduced to a label. And then the next step is to maybe add one of those records to your library. And then the next step after that would be purchase a record or buy a tape or buy a vinyl. And I feel like, from that point on, that's when I would really like dive into buying a t-shirt or a tote from the label. Again, I'm speaking as a fan. I just wish that every single label out there had a Spotify playlist. This is just a suggestion. It's really easy to do, but I think it's important, if you don't already have one, to take the songs and listen. If your label is new and you've done 2 releases or 3 releases, that's okay. Get it started. Add 3 songs from every album and create a little bit of an order, so that people can get a taste for your label. Name the playlist, the name of your label, then official playlist. Get artwork that represents your label, just your logo or whatever. Put it in the description of the playlist, a little bit about your label and your website address. And I think that'll be hugely helpful for people like me who are active music listeners, who like to discover new music and want to kind of deep dive into a label as the initial stages of the relationship. So listen, I know a lot of you already have this. If you don't, go and make one right now, because and send it to me. Like, email me and send me your playlist, and I'll add it to my library and I'll listen to it. I think it's a great thing to do. I hope you find this helpful. I hope you make a playlist. Go to otherrecordlabels.com, where you can get our resources and hear previous episodes. And again, thank you for being a listener. Thank you for following along. Thank you for emailing me and reaching out. It's hugely encouraging, and I think it's a ton of fun that we're all kind of in this together, supporting music and supporting musicians and putting more great music out there. So thanks a lot for listening.